Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today, I would like to share a book that is kind of special for me. This is The Light Book: How Natural and Artificial Light Affect Our Health, Mood, and Behavior by Jane Hyman. The reason that this book is special to me is because a few years ago, I told my sociology professor about my interest in sleep, so she loaned me this book, The Light Book. It wasn't this copy. This is one I found on thriftbooks.com after having to wait some time for it to become available. But I read the book and I liked it. It was part of the time that I really started becoming interested in these kinds of things. So, this professor, her name was Susan Palmer. She was one of those teachers that everybody just really loved. Not only was she a great teacher, but a wonderful human being. So, she became a friend, and I was lucky to take her sociology class on her last quarter that she taught before retiring. If you've ever had Susan Palmer, you know what kind of person she was. Or you could type in Susan Palmer Walla Walla on YouTube and watch a video called Uncovering Student Potential to see what she was like. So, you probably noticed that I keep referring to her in the past tense. I found out this year that she died of cancer last year, and when the reality of that finally clicked for me, I started thinking back about the time I spent with her, and this book was one of the things that came to my mind. After the quarter ended, she gave me a small stack of books, and when I had the idea to start this channel, I was going to make my first review for one of those books she gave me and dedicate the video to her. It was this sociology book called Citizens But Not Americans: Race and Belonging Among Latino Millennials. And it turned out to be a bit too dull for a review, at least for my first one. I mean, it was nothing but statistics and citations, about as academic as a book could be. So I pulled the plug on that and did a different one. So now I figured, why not do the Light Book? And I do feel like I should say, as much affection and respect as I had for her, and as much as I miss her, you will not hear me say things like, I hope you're at peace now, or thank you for all the things you taught me, or this video is for you. I think that saying such things is a healthy expression toward the dead, but I'm a believer that dead means no longer exists, and my behaviors toward the dead will reflect that, despite the strength of the connection I had to the person while they were alive. That simply cannot apply. So, I'm not telling her, I'm telling anyone who is watching this video. This video is dedicated to Susan Palmer. The Light Book: How Natural and Artificial Light Affect Our Health, Mood, and Behavior by Jane Hyman. Jane Hyman is a medical writer and health consultant for Boston Women's Health Book Collective. Or at least she was when this book was published back in 1990. So yeah, this book is a bit outdated. That was pretty apparent as I started rereading through it. I remember being more fascinated by the information the first time through. Well, the idea of this book is definitely still fascinating. It's just that 30 years is a long time in human health research. So, we start with an introduction to one of my personal favorite structures in the brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. That's a lot of fun to say. Try it. Suprachiasmatic nucleus. Or the suprachiasmatic nutcase when I feel like being silly. I love how medical terms tell you something about the object. Supra meaning above, chiasmatic for the optic chiasm, which is an important part of the circuitry between the eyes and the rest of the brain, and nucleus, suprachiasmatic nucleus. As with most brain structures, there's one in each hemisphere, so nuclei. So, what does it do? In Star Trek: The Next Generation, there's a scene in an episode wherein the android Data mentions his internal chronometer, which he uses to track the passage of time. And Commander Riker says, Data, humans don't have internal chronometers. Now, the writers of this episode should have consulted with a neurologist, because we indeed do have internal chronometers. They're known as the suprachiasmatic nuclei. Have you ever looked at a clock and you somehow knew what time it was going to be, or at least have a really good guess? Try it right now. Have you ever woke up right before your alarm, or began to feel drowsy at the same time each day? Have you ever had a period? The suprachiasmatic nuclei are the primary brain structures responsible for governing the production and release of hormones associated with all of these and many more animal functions. I almost said human functions, but no, animal functions is more accurate. Here's one of the things that make the SCN so interesting. What do 99% of the animals on land on Earth have in common? We are almost all subject to the 24-hour day-night cycles, and it is cues from light that make the SCN work. Light comes into the retinas where it is converted to electrochemical impulses and sent through the optic nerve, across the optic chiasm, and then sent to various visual centers of the brain, as well as the suprachiasmatic nuclei. And not just the sun, but moonlight and artificial light too. So you can see that we may have a problem here. We and our suprachiasmatic nuclei have evolved and have been set by the natural solar and lunar cycles since the dawn of life. Today, however, our exposure to light is very unnatural. As I type this, it's dark outside, but my bright screen is telling my eyes that it's daytime. The message received by the eyes is affecting my melatonin production and who knows what else. So that's a central message in this book. Our post-industrial lifestyle comes with a kind of decoupling from the natural light cycles we, indeed everything, evolved with. It's hard to say in how many ways this could be damaging to our health, but that the issues we've known about as of 1990 are here in this book. There are very few things we can count on staying the same over time on this planet, and the rotation of the Earth, the sun and the moon have a pretty solid track record, not counting overcast. This is something that is so fundamental, so innate, so intrinsic to life on our planet that it governs processes in almost every living thing on Earth. Gardeners will tell you that when they want an annual flower to shift from the vegetative to the flowering stage, you have to simulate the change from summer to autumn by shortening the light exposure times. Think of animal behaviors like hibernation, mating, and maturation in sleep, suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the neural equivalent for that animal. If you want to make any kind of argument that we are somehow connected to our world and our solar system, the SCN is a good place to look. So the book covers all kinds of different things that are affected by light. We talk about the circadian rhythm as well as circulunar rhythm, circannual rhythm, ultradian rhythm, and the circaseptan or weekly rhythm. The other chapters are on fertility and childbirth, the sleep-wake cycle, eating and drinking, mood and behavior, wellness and disease, and aging. And as I said, the book is kind of old, so there are some outdated statements on studies that we need, some of which we have since done, but I was left wanting a more modern version of this material. If anyone has any recommendations on something like that, please leave it in the comments. The book also has quite a lot of testimonials supporting anecdotal statements. They're nice to help illustrate a point, but shouldn't be weighed with the data, of which there are many studies mentioned, and there are citations in the many pages of endnotes, so that's nice. It does have a glossary. I love when books have a glossary, even if it's only like 2 pages. The book also has a good number of diagrams, kind of like clocks or calendars, which she uses to show different phenomena at different times. For instance, like changes in metabolic rates over a day. The book also has a lark-owl questionnaire to find out if you're a morning or evening person. I'm sure most people probably already know what they are and don't need to fill out a questionnaire, but it's nice that it's there. There are also some drawings and other kinds of diagrams throughout the book, and it's not very long. Counting the endnotes, it's just over 200 pages. So despite the age-related shortcomings of this book, it is good for getting us to think about our relationship to our environment, which is pretty important. I'm kind of surprised that this book isn't more popular. Nobody seems to have heard of it, and it wasn't easy to get. The author has put out some other books, but I think they're all unrelated. So far, I haven't been able to find more books on exactly this topic, but a lot of the stuff she talks about is supported in newer sleep books I've read. I'm sure there are some out there, so if you do know of any, let me know. Well, that will cover it for this one. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can find it, go out and get the Light book, How Natural and Artificial Light Affect Our Health, Mood, and Behavior.